Hi folks, this is Anne Marie. This is an afternoon version of the Futures in 5. Doing it today because of the Fed. We did have someone on my Twitter stream say, hey, listen, every time the Fed's raised rates, here's how the afternoon worked out, and it was quite a fade. But let's take a look at what we saw beforehand and what we saw afterwards. I talked about the range-bound space for our charts to be in and for us to watch these edges above this 2937 area. We'd have more bullish spaces, and below this 2918 we'd have more bearish spaces. And then the Fed released. Charts did all right in the early part of the day and then completely collapsed. Lost our 2909 area but did recover it. That's what support looks like in a space that is generally bullish, and traders are coming into other supports that they've seen in the past. This is really what we are looking at in this case, and we are going to bounce. Here's the thing, this is a thin volume profile event. How well we get up over here is going to tell how the overnight or tomorrow is going to do, so we ought to watch that pretty carefully. Taking a look at the NQ, we were looking at this topping space, topping, natural resistance event in a breakdown into support. I said watch the edges, potential for a failed bounce here. We saw it. Let's see what happens. It bounced right into our target zone, just a bit over our initial target zone there at 76.63, and then coming right back into the congestion event, which we did talk about. Low volume area, big region of support, should hold the zone. Looked like it was going to fade, and then pulled right back up into the space. We'll see that all the time. Old resistance, new support. Learning to trade what you see and anticipation of motion becomes the most important thing you learn besides managing your risk. I would have to say that. Taking a look at the YN, this is what we saw. Low volume profile event. It was a do or die space here with this kind of action. Otherwise, as we spoke about, we have this low volume and then this low volume. Let's see what happened today. As we look at it, we can see it coming right down into the midpoint of where all this noise is in the low volume profile. Now, it did try to get lower, but it held above this region, meaning that buyers would come into the fray. We are looking at something that looks like potentially failed bounces ahead for all of these indices across the board. It's going to be very, very interesting in general, but our bounces could be sharp. A lot of mechanical motion going on in here. That's certainly what I would think about in that space. Let's take a look at oil. The EIA was today as we were coming down into this space. Here's the notion. This is an adaptive moving average. It's bullish in general because it's moving up. We have higher lows, higher highs. Fades ought to bring bounces into the phrase, particularly the way hedge funds are holding positions at this particular time. EIA came out, we had a surprise build. The chart faded, but it came right into that area of relative support, right? It should have come down into here, in my mind, because that's where the clean line is, but people can always get very anxious about waiting for a chart to come back into its target space, and so they can step in front of the trade. We do know above 71.67 for those of us that are members. Holding that region does allow us to slip back into the space, and so we are holding this congestion zone as we speak. We're really right in the middle of all of this noise. We'll see what happens right here. In general, it's a mixed bag, which tells me that we're going to see wicks on the top and wicks on the bottom. Taking a look at gold, this is a pretty interesting one. Before we began today, I said, hey, 1196 still looks like pretty heavy support. We'll have to watch for that. Our other targets in the trading room have more levels that we could go down to, but certainly this was the region where we could see, in general, things holding. Let's see how we did today. It came right down and past that level and immediately began to lift, now sitting right around this 1200 area. What should we do? Well, we bounced into resistance. Remember, it's got to get up over 1205. These were the levels that I made for us. What we're doing is looking at charts that are underneath this zone, and so that's fairly bearish in terms of motion. So any big bounces should continue to fade in this space until buyers decide they want to come in and move ahead. All right, that's the afternoon version of the futures in 5. See you in the morning.